welcome to Close Up with the Hollywood Reporter TV Directors. I'm Rebecca Ford, and I would like to welcome Ben Stiller, Patty Jenkins, Jean-Marc Vallée, Ava DuVernay, David Nutter, Adam McKay. Thank you guys for joining us. We're gonna jump right in here. It wasn't that long ago that film directors would have never worked in TV, but that has really changed. Why do you think that is?
I always wanted to do television, and it was a funny thing because I like having the different options. So right after I'd made Monster, I made a concerted effort to go and direct Arrested Development because I missed comedy and I wanted to do it. It used to be more limited. There was only so many things available in television and so many things available in film. And now I think finally that has blurred. We're really getting a chance to do what you would do in a feature but longer.
Adam, how about for you?
When I was a kid, one of the big moments for me was like when Hill Street Blues came on. It was the first time I really saw something that was like funny and dramatic and like different. And that was TV. And there were a lot of shows like that when I was a kid. Even shows like Taxi and Barney Miller that were like really impactful. So I had the same feeling as Patty. I really felt like TV was exciting, that there's a scope to it that I was ready to embrace. And then especially in the last 10 or 15 years when you've seen TV go more towards a film style, but still have that larger narrative arc, it was sort of hard to resist.
Mm-hmm. Ben, how about for you?
Back when the miniseries came on, back like when Roots came on, Shogun, these big events, it was so exciting because it would be 4 nights in a row and all of a sudden everybody was watching it at the same time. I think, you know, what Adam's saying is like, it's just changed in terms of the opportunities that are available now. In a lot of ways, it's more accessible as a filmmaker to be able to work within it in areas that, you know, you're not thinking about box office, you're not thinking about how many people are not gonna see it possibly, because if it doesn't have a big opening weekend, and there's a chance for a lot more people to experience it. And take your time and tell the story the way you want to tell it.
Ava, tell me what brought you to TV with this and, of course, Queen Sugar.
To me, it's really the same thing. You know, for me, I don't think of it as film and television, you know, between, you know, Selma or Queen Sugar or A Wrinkle in Time or, you know, or this piece When They See Us. It's just my story, and I'm trying to find the form that fits that story. And that's the privilege of being able to make work now, where we have so many platforms, so many opportunities to reach audience, that I'm really thinking about a story. I mean, this story that I made now was originally supposed to be a theatrical piece, and I said, no, I think it's a series, because I need more time, and it also has to deal with racial bias and all this stuff that I think people don't really go to the movies for, but they may watch in a roots environment in their own home with their families comfortable. So the lines are so blurred now that when I think of what we're doing in the TV space, I don't think of the old TV that I watched when I was younger or those event things. I think of it as now a story that can take any form we decide.
Jean-Marc, how about for you?
I relate to what Eva just said, and every project, whether it's for TV or film, I see it. I approach it the same way. There's a project, there's a story. How am I going to serve it to be at its service and find the visual style? Of course, it's longer, and the challenge is there, and the fun. We have time to develop characters in 8 hours instead of 2. I mean, we shoot like it's 3 feature films. We shoot 1, 2, 3, take a break, 4 and 5, and then because I've been shooting all of the episodes, so it's like directing a very long feature film, but it's fun, and it's fun also to give it to find the cliffhanger at the end of an episode too. Stay tuned.
So let's talk a little bit about the intensity of these shoots. You know, a lot of the subject matter here is difficult. You're shooting in jails, you're shooting heavy subject matter, you're shooting extremely ambitious, battle scenes or tons of characters. How do you go about making sure to protect the actors and make sure, no one's getting totally worn down? What are you doing as a director to sort of make sure everyone's taken care of? David, how about on a Game of Thrones shoot?
Well, I think the most important part of that is information. I think that it's all about rehearsing, it's all about casting, it's all about, I fall back to my hero, Sidney Lumet. It's all about taking actors, taking them to the rooms, talking them through sequences, and letting them know what's going to happen, and making sure that plenty of rehearsal time is allotted. This final season of the series was good because we had all the actors get together at the beginning of the season and we all read the script, all the scripts. And then I went to the casting director and said, well, where's my time? Where the actors do I have some time? And she said, you have 4 days. So I went back to my office and I typed up all these, Tyrion and Cersei will do this for 4 days. I blocked out every scene, every two-hander, every group scene they were all in. Made sure David and Dan were come by to see some of the sequences, see if they're comfortable with it. I'd tape out locations and tables and the whole thing, whatever that would be. And we basically got a chance to go through the entire 3 shows that I directed with all the actors. And they would love it because they didn't have to think about it on the day. It was a situation I'd get out to Winterfell Castle and I'd take 2 pieces of tape from the throw marks from the assistant camera operator. I'd throw them down and Peter would come out and Jamie would come out and they'd hit their marks and all the crew would be like, oh great, we don't have to sit around for 2 hours and figure this out, let's go. So to me, as much information as you can instill is very important. In season 5, I didn't want to read what happened to Jon Snow in season 6. So I never knew how that ended. So I was at a fundraiser with President Obama at Chuck Lorre's house one day, and they were all excited I was there because that was when they were showing the last 2 episodes of season 5. And you take the picture with the president, he takes my hand and shakes my hand and says, you didn't kill Jon Snow, did you? And I said, yes, sir, he's deader than dead. You kill all my favorite characters. So it was a situation in which I didn't lie to him, but the next season, people came back and said that I lied to the president. They were waiting for the IRS to come get me, but fortunately they didn't.
So are you told the story arcs for everyone through the entire season, even if you're not directing, the final couple episodes, what happens to every character?
Well, for this season, of course, I wanted to sit down on the read-through and see how it ended. But prior to that, I wouldn't want to read forward of what I was doing because it would inhibit that, or it would be, if they needed me to do something to help arc something for a character later on, of course I'd know all of that. But some of the stuff I wouldn't want to know because I think it made it much more clear for me to tell a story from that perspective of the character at the time it happened.
Mm-hmm. Ava and Jean-Marc, tell me about how you worked with the actors when the material was so dark. How did you sort of help them handle that?
I've become used to working with actors on the really, really dark stuff, and I think information is important. It's really, since these historical pieces, whether it's Selma or when they see us, making sure that the actor knows what happened before, that knows that what they're doing is steeped in history, that they're playing real people, what the stakes are, that this isn't happening to you, that this happened to someone else, and that you have to tell us what that was, so you've got to go deep. It's really just making sure that they know those stakes, and those stakes are supported by, what really happened, since these are true stories. And I find that helps the actor defend themselves against any kind of real interior damage in a way, because they feel like, I'm representing someone that needs my help here. But then I also do have counselors on the set, particularly with this piece. If anyone wants to talk afterward, if you just want to go cry, if you just want to sit alone, because when you're asking people to go to these depths, you have to take care of them.
Did anyone ever use
Yeah.
that's a really interesting idea. I've never heard that before.
That's great.
We had that with our scenes in our last movie that we did. We had to depict torture, the U.S. torturing Iraqis, Afghan. I never thought of that before, and to actually have that available.
Yeah, I didn't do it on my first couple of films that really dealt with it, and I would talk with actors afterward, and they would tell me how hard a time they had. It's hard to let go, but that this had done some real damage, and I said, how can we correct this? So just from a place of good health. Yeah.
Every project, on Dallas, there was a very damaged person there, the character of Matthew McConaughey. This one, it's a family story, Sharp Objects, where there's a history of abuse between the women of the family. And so, of course, it comes from a book. And we loved the book, and it was our Bible. So how we worked, Amy and I had a routine in the morning where we had to talk about the day, as she was having 2 hours of makeup with all these scars, on her body, and talk about the day and the scenes and where she is, where she's going, what's the emotional target, objective, goal today, and we love to refer to the book and to come back to it and to see and to compare, what Marty and then Marty did with our team of writers, and then go back to the book and the intentions, and it's all about trying to be real, be true, and serve the thing, and yeah.
Hey, what's going on? Hey, Mama, what's going on? Stop it. Is she all right?
She's scared. She's lashing out. She just saw 2 of her friends murdered. You were drunk at the Keene's house.
I wasn't. But even if I was, this is Wind Gap. Everyone's drunk.
Come here.
No, Anne was throwing a fit, and you're giving me a lecture about drinking?
And Ben, this was it actually filmed in a prison, or the real prison that it was?
Yeah,
set
we
in?
filmed scenes in actually at Clinton Correctional in the yard, the North Yard there, which is this huge. It's almost like a little Roman amphitheater built into the side of the mountain. And then we filmed outside of that prison. Then we went down to Pittsburgh and we shot in a real prison in Pittsburgh. The environments for the actors, when you have this much work to. These things are long. There's just so much. How do you tackle all this? And you have to kind of break it down. I think just scene by scene, and take the pressure off of like we're gonna tell this whole long story. Just do it bit by bit. Having to shoot it like a movie, it's literally block shooting. So you're shooting everything that happens in one location for 6 episodes. It's confusing for the production people, but I think even harder for the actors because they have to place themselves where they are in the story. So I think it's just like breaking it down bit by bit, and then just creating an environment where everybody feels safe to take chances and to figure it out together and to have a common. So I think what you're talking about doing with Amy, just having a sort of common idea of what you're going for. I find when you work with great actors, they're going to bring so much. They just bring so much to you. They're going to have ideas that you wouldn't have had. I like to try to just let them have the space to do their thing and see what they bring instinctually to it. Mm-hmm. And being in the real locations and all that I think really helps.
Yeah. As a director, you're obviously making a million decisions a day, and you are the leader of this team. What do you do when you feel unsure? Have you ever stepped onto a project and thought, I'm not ready for this, and how did you deal with that? Or are you guys always sure on every project?
I'm unsure every time. I get a script, you're never sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you're not sure, I guess you're going to fake it until you are sure, I guess. In some respect. Yeah.
I always find like yelling at people works really to make me feel stronger and better, even if it's over nothing. So I'll chastise people, scream at them, and then I start to feel powerful and I get, no. I think David's answer is perfect. I think you should be walking on set with a certain degree of uncertainty. I think that's actually a healthy part of the process. Mm-hmm. That nothing can ever replicate that feeling of being on that set with these incredible actors, emotionally stated in this scene, and to acknowledge the fact that I don't know exactly what's going to happen in this situation, I think is like, that's the reason we probably all do this, is that discovery is so cool.
To me, the challenge is what the actors have to deal with. I just wanted to give them as much of an opportunity to have an environment, depending on what the situation is. Whatever is going to help them be okay, and every actor is different, whether it's having less people around or,
I think that's so important because for me, I want to make sure that they're as pleased with it as I can be, because I get to go home and play with all the toys and, then edit and fix and, I get to spend more time with whatever we've done on the day. I can't imagine being an actor. I think they're so brave. It's their face. It's their face. It's their body. It's their memories. It's the blood pumping through their veins that they're giving to this. And then they literally have to say, okay, take care of all that I did and hope it turns out okay, and they can't touch it again. Mm-hmm. Whenever an actor says one more, I'd be like, 2 more. Okay, let's just really make sure we get this, because I think the actor's instincts is something to be respected, but also I always just think, gosh, they have to walk away from this thing, and trust me, I could never do it. I can never do it. I'm too control.
No, me too.
I don't know how you know what I mean? I can never do it.
I feel the same way. I'm like, I'm good as long as I can go and organize it all and be like, now I'm ready.
Right.
Not just on the fly. I could never.
It's so true. Like I've done small parts. I've given myself like 2 lines, and it's just misery. You're like, these actors have the hardest job ever, because there is like such a ego death that goes into acting. You're just like, I trust It's all in your hands. And with Succession, we had that where there were, that's why I was interested when you were talking about the idea of therapists on set, because when you get to that real dark, personal place, which we had Jeremy Strong, we had Brian Cox, we're getting into those kinds of areas, you feel like a responsibility. You feel like, Ben was kind of talking about this, that you have to be a good steward of the set. And yeah, the idea of putting yourself out there that emotionally raw, it's kind of an amazing thing. I feel like a humility whenever I watch it happen. Yeah.
This year on Game of Thrones, and I've had this before with the shows, people's deaths, their last scene. And to me, that's such an important thing, is that making sure that they feel comfortable with it. And I would always go to them and let them know, this is the one, this is the angle, or this is the whatever we're doing, and I'll keep doing it until you feel comfortable. Because it's too important. Because they have to walk away feeling that they contributed to that. And I heard a story once that acting is standing in front of a crowd, naked and turning around very slowly. And it really is that. And it's a situation, if they fall, you have to be there to catch them. You know, because so much of the time anymore, there's so many monitors and so many layers between actors and directors and so forth. And I always like to get up there as close as possible so that they know that with everything that's going on, they're still the center. Because without them, they're nothing.
Not so long ago, the Starks and the Karstarks were slaughtering each other on the battlefield. Jon Snow brought peace to the houses.
And our queen is grateful.
The gratitude is lovely, but that's not my point. The Northmen are loyal to Jon Snow, not to her. They don't know her. The free folk don't know her. I've been up here a while, and I'm telling you, they're stubborn as goats. You want their loyalty? You have to earn it.
I think it's part of the job to feel unsure. The more I work and I feel more confident about my tools and the craft and how I'm going to shoot. I accept to be creative on the day. Before I needed to shot list, storyboard, and be creative before the day. But now, I don't shot list, I don't storyboard. I know I'm going to figure it out with the actors and the crew. I feel unsure sometimes, and okay, but I wonder if you guys, when you're doing the big films and with Wonder Woman and Game of Thrones, you have to prepare, I guess, and do the shot list for.
Yeah.
But, but still, there's some room to be.
For sure. I do it 100% of the time, but I don't do what I shot list plenty, you know? So I always have to have a plan, more because of forgetting a shot than anything else. More because I'm like, oh, that shot of the keyhole, I forgot, you know. It's like, because you get caught up, but performance-wise, I always have a plan, but you always see what's happening.
Yeah, of course.
And so you know you have cover, but then you're ready when you see what's happening. Yeah, but it's a funny thing about the big movies, because you're shooting one scene over 10 days. So you have to know what shot you didn't get if it's an action thing.
Did you really have scenes in Wonder Woman that took 10 days?
Oh, more.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, things like the beach battle and stuff, that's 3 weeks.
That was crazy.
3 weeks, you know. And that's what I'm saying. That stuff is actually lunatic, too, because not only are you shot listing, but there were periods of time in the middle of making the film where I was like, please don't die, just please, because I was the only person who now knew how, like, that compromise I've made up for with that compromise. There's no way I can explain to anybody how that's all going to fit together, because this changed, and so I did that. So you're like, oh God, I just let me just get this whole thing together and pass it on to somebody.
That's the only reason you didn't want to die?
There are other reasons, but it's a new version of Please Don't Die. Where you're there was a period of time where I was on a flight with one of my producers, and it was 3/4 of the way through the movie, and I was like, and we had really bad turbulence, and I emailed, I was like, if the plane goes down, just know I'm not okay with that, whatever. Like,
Take 3, that's the word.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That's someone who loves filmmaking.
I do.
First thought goes towards that.
Yes, of course. Not, you know.
You know that Adidas commercial we shot, just please make sure, use the wide to intro. That's really funny.
I'm curious if you can give me an example of a time an actor brought up an idea on your project that maybe you weren't really into at first and then went with, and it ended up being sort of the right choice that you hadn't thought of?
So many
of
times.
times.
Yeah. Like a million. I
every
think
day.
that's actually, I feel like that's actually a part of the normal system. I learned over the years a couple of things. One is never note the actors right away, because sometimes they haven't realized. Like they came in with something and they meant it to do something, didn't do it. So give them a chance to see what they were trying to do. But then, like I've definitely learned, particularly with actors, unless there's a really clear reason, like you can't give away that spoiler with that line. I always try it, and it's a constant collaboration. It's constantly something I didn't think of, and then you're seeing, oh, okay, cool. Oh, I see what you're right. That's a way I wasn't looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being an actor also, you know, and when you work with many different directors, sometimes actors will make a choice that they will stick with. I'm just saying this from my own experience, because you feel that's the right choice, and you don't want to give the director any other choice to cut to. And I find as a director, when an actor does that to me, it drives me crazy because I know what they're doing. And you know, it's sometimes it's a discussion, and sometimes it's just like, yeah, that's how I feel about what that choice is. If it doesn't jive with what your idea is, that can be where you, I think, have to, you know, sometimes have those creative discussions, and you know, at the end of the day, you have to feel as a director that you have the choices that you want. I mean, I'm not one who like needs to have a million different choices for something, and I do feel like when you see something, you go, that feels right. I'm happy to go with it. It can be tough. It can be tough, and you have to then trust that and see how far you want to go in terms of the discussion with the actor to have another way to go.
And when it comes to improv, I know Succession uses quite a bit of that. Was there a moment that was improvised day of that you're especially proud of or that you especially loved?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we've all been talking about, that, you know, when you have your ideas for how scenes go, you want the actor to play it a certain way. I always get a little itchy when everything's lining up too nicely. I want to make sure there are some mistakes flowing around. So I always jokingly say on the best day of my life, I was right like 68% of the time. So I always throw improv in there to make sure that there's some collisions and accidents. And it was funny with this cast because we usually, when I cast people, I make sure I tell them, you know, you're okay with improv. I've worked with Ben before as an actor. We all know how that goes. And but in this case, we had some classically trained actors who just looked me straight in the eyes and told me there's no way I'm improvising. And sure enough, on the day we would get there and I would yell out, hey, try this. And they would go, no. And the whole crew would get still for a second. And I would just say, we're rolling. You might as well. And then they would start to do it. And of course, they would fall in love with it. I mean, every actor does. So yeah, there's a family dinner scene that's the birthday for Logan Roy. And that's entirely improvised. I gave everyone their own conversation they were going to have, and I just did the dolly track around the table, and we just circled the table for a full mag and did it like, 3 times in a row, and they were incredible.
Several of these stories are based on real stories from real life. Ava, Ben, Patty, I'm curious, how much are the real people weighing on you when you're making a television show like this?
They weigh on me a lot. However, at a certain point, once you really are close with the spirit of who they are and what's important, you have to just know that you're doing your best. Like you can't let it. You have to make sure that you're centered and on the right, spot and being respectful. And then I think from there, you and the actors have to say, like, we have to also be alive in this moment, as long as we're never forgetting that and becoming disrespectful. But I think about it a lot. And I also find that the responsibility is something I take super seriously at the script and the planning level and casting and all of those things.
Ben, I know Tilly, who's played by Patricia Arquette, had actually spoken out that she didn't think her portrayal was accurate.
That is correct.
How do you deal with hearing something like that?
I felt okay with it because I felt confident in the research that we did. I don't know what really happened in certain, parts of the story, and it's not a documentary. We weren't making a documentary, but I also was pretty, I think, obsessive about trying to get as much of the real story in there as possible. And I had to, at a certain point, make my own judgment about certain things that happened that I personally felt was the way it went. It might not be, but I felt secure in that because I felt like I'd done enough research to feel like this is what I thought it would be. And I talked to a lot of people who were a part of that story and people who worked at the prison, and you kind of have to take all of that information and sort of synthesize it and then make your own choices. And then you do have to then make sure that it's actually something that the actors can act, and the actors have to make choices about motivations. And for me, the goal was to humanize the characters. They're all people who, in this story, who kind of have done pretty bad things, and I would just want to show them as people and not try to apologize for them in any way, but also try to somehow make them accessible as human beings, because we're all human beings, and I think that's why people are interested in these stories, because they are showing us part of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And Ava, I know the real men were participated in your story, but so was there any discussion with them about something they didn't want to show or didn't want to be part of the story, or were they completely open?
They were completely open, and it was imperative to me that they be happy with this. Mm-hmm. I told them at the beginning that there was nothing that I was going to not include if I found it, and wanted to make sure that they were good with that before we started, and they all agreed to that. They were on set, they read the scripts before. One told me the other day, I read the script, and you had told me, you were going to do what you wanted to do, so I didn't know that I could say something after I read the script. It was like, yeah, no, you could have, but you didn't. So we shot that piece. But no, they were there, and at one point, the actors started to say, "Is my guy going to be here?" Like they wanted them there. They were so much a part of the fabric of this, and that's how the piece was built. It was built to be their voice. For 30 years, the Central Park Five were never heard from. Their confessions were coerced. The press coverage was skewed, and the injustice that happened to them was really that they were silenced. And so this whole piece, I did it to give them voice. So I had to honor that at every turn. The biggest reward for me, there's nothing that can happen with this piece because I sat in a room with those men. I've been working on this since 2015. I sat in the room with these men. They wept. They embraced one another. They had a cathartic experience watching all of their stories because they'd been so mired in their own personal story. But when they saw their brother's stories, the experience of being in that small screening room with them, I remember thinking, what else? I mean, what else is there than this? So, much different than Selma, where you're like, I want to get the spirit of these people right. Like, I can't. I'm not going to be able to get every head turn and everything right. But from my research, this is what it feels good to do. This was so different. I was, on pins and needles about making sure that this was actually their experience and that they were pleased with it.
Mm-hmm. All of these projects are so ambitious. Tell me about the biggest fight you had to get what you needed.
Through my years of doing television and film, I have definitely felt a part of the people who were trying to scale it up and have those conversations with people who haven't necessarily done that before, and sort of saying, yeah, no, we're doing this big shot. Like, this does matter. We're not just doing cut to stolen B camera exterior house. We're spending the time and doing these bigger things. So I feel like nowadays we're really so much closer to people understanding that.
Mm-hmm. David, how about for you? Did you have to fight for anything you really needed to make your episodes of this final season?
For Game of Thrones, as far as fighting is concerned, it's been a great experience not to have to do that, which is fun. And also, too, I like limitations sometimes, because limitations helps me build a world. Because if you have no limitations, then you've got nothing to grab onto. I like to have limitations, and to me, they'll say you can do this, this, and this, and then I say, okay, how do I play in that sandbox? I can figure out how to do that in that way. If I may need to change something or adjust here, or let's spend a little more money here, let's spend more time here, this seems more important, this isn't as important. I can do this in less shots or whatever that may be. So you're always balancing that no matter what you're doing.
I think for me, just on our project, it was getting to shoot up at the real prison.
Right.
Because, for budget, it's just always hard to go sometimes to the actual places. And for us to have access to the prison, it was in such a unique location, nestled inside of the Adirondack Mountains, it was almost impossible to recreate. And it was part of the story because these guys escaped and they went out into the mountains. So as we were literally 6 weeks away from shooting, and we didn't have a location secured to be able to shoot up there. And so when we finally got that was, I mean, that was the biggest fight. Besides, there's always budget, discussions, but but to be able to have access to that place, and then for them to cooperate with us, and then they gave us, we were allowed to go inside the prison, and then to have people who worked at the prison be technical advisors was just, to me, was the most valuable thing.
Did you learn anything new about sort of the prison environment that was sort of an interesting wake-up call?
I mean, I learned from 13th a lot, that how bad it is, and to experience it for real, to feel the heaviness of it, to me, was the biggest thing, I think. Sometimes the tone of something you're making, you don't know what it's going to be until you're doing it. I don't know, like Adam, I feel like you kind of create tone in such an amazing way. I didn't know what it was going to be, but then when I went into the real prison and walked through there, it was so heavy. It just was like, there's no way this can be funny in any way. I mean, there could be ironic humor at times, but like, this is not funny to me. And I can understand why, no matter who you are, you want to get out of here.
On Sharp Objects and on every project, there's always fights, but I always, on every project now, I fight for a number of days of shooting, and 9 to 6. I don't want to shoot before 9 a.m. I'm 56. I'm tired.
Wow. Can I come work on your set?
I didn't even know that was possible.
I start at 9 a.m.
This is so European.
This is my,
Oh my God, yeah.
And you're from Montreal, right?
it's got to be a 9 a.m. call on the call sheet. If it's not 9, I'm like, I'm sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, but I'm a responsible filmmaker, and we finish at 6, and I fight for a music budget. Because this is the nature of the storytelling, putting the music in the center of the stories. And on Sharp Objects, so it was this music budget, and we fought for Led Zeppelin, to become the sound of Sharp Objects, and then we fought for the house, to have a very specific house that became almost a character, and Amy needed to shoot in LA, so we found a house in Northern California. It was taking place in the South, in Missouri, so we didn't find one over there. We built the house, the interior of the house with the porch on stage in LA, and we shot the exterior scenes in Northern California, so that was a big expense. But HBO are such great partners, and they're aiming for quality, and they know when it's time to take a decision, and all right, let's put money there, and so.
Game of Thrones is 10-hour days, straight through, no lunch.
Because that's your opinion.
No lunch.
Yeah, we do that too.
But of course, poor people in White Walkers and things, they'd have to start much earlier, of course, to get through their makeup and so forth.
Succession was 20-hour days. No lunch. No, I'm just making it up.
That's why
I'd go to jail if we did that. That would be... No, the only, you're totally right about HBO. They're so incredible with that, because there would have been fights normally. And the big one for us was film. Like, we really wanted film. We needed that warmth for this story of these people that live in such rarefied air. And there was almost no fight. I mean, Casey was incredible, too, with the casting. He's like, you don't have to cast stars in the roles, just cast who's right. So mostly I ended up fighting for Game of Thrones. I was like, they need more money.
Give them a lunch break.
Hattie, you obviously brought Chris Pine back from Wonder Woman for I Am the Night.
Yeah.
What is it about him that you wanted to work with him again, and sort of in general, what makes you have a particularly strong bond with a certain actor like that?
I've had it happen with several actors who you get up to speed and you really know that person. So you see this incredible skill set that they're capable of. You can spin them this way and that's fun, spin them that way. Chris and I definitely have that, and I also think that he has a bunch of dimensions to him that I haven't quite seen him get to explore. I mean, like now at this point, I'm feeling like I just want to keep working with so many of the same actors because it is so fun. Like I had Connie Nielsen in it too, and you just spin her in a whole other direction and watch this whole other side of their personality come out. Now you have a shorthand. I love that. I love working with the same people.
Mm-hmm. It sounded like you said you didn't get them.
Yeah, I did. I didn't get them. I didn't get the shots. The camera got smashed.
You stupid son of a bitch! You clown! You get a new camera and you go back there, idiot! You stupid son of a...
Sal, shut up! Shut up! Just shut up! Shut up! I got the pictures. I was kidding. I'm bringing them in. Here I come. I was kidding.
Ava, I know you've brought Storm Reed on a few projects now. What is it about certain actors that creates that?
When you get to a place where you barely have to say what it is that you're doing, or when you say it and they just know it right there. I have it with David Oyelowo, I have it with Storm Reed, and I have it with Jarrell Jerome, who plays Corey Wise in this, who has a whole episode just dedicated to his performance in the prison. I really, work hard to have great relationships with all of the actors. In this piece, there were 117 significant speaking parts. That was my fight. I think Netflix was like, I thought it was Central Park 5. How did we, what is happening here?
I lied on you too.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm sorry, man. They made us lie. Right?
But there's some where you just get to a place where it's a nod of the head, or you just can say, and they know what you're talking about. That kind of thing becomes really comfortable and allows you to think about a lot of other things as opposed to having to kind of mold so carefully. So
I think we're almost all on from the school, less is more. And sometimes, actors, and on Dallas Buyers Club, when Matthew and Jared, they were doing more is more. And I was asking them, there's too much movement. The hat, the cigarette, the spitting, the scratching. I don't know where to look, guys. And Matthew was telling me, well, Jean-Marc, Texas is movement, Jean-Marc, I need stillness. I don't know where to look, And it's funny how, And then the first days of shooting, they were so big and giant performances. And so the DP and I, we were, let's move away. I don't want to be close to them. And we found the distance, and then they got it. Matthew got it, so he started to walk and come close to the camera. It's crazy how it becomes a dance, and we get creative on the day. It's a small film, indie film, not a lot of money, and we found the thing, and then we found our way of working together, and then the next day comes and pan. And then, and we respect each other, but we try to, until after a week, bang, it happened, But all this to say with actors, sometimes, it's great, but and finally they proved me wrong. The more is more approach was goddamn right for this film. There, and it was, and my God, yeah.
Well, it's like syncing up your rhythms, like between how you saw the story and how they saw it. I mean, we had it with Jeremy Strong, where there was a scene where he's supposed to lose everything when he's in a bathroom. His dad has betrayed him. And because I had done another movie with him, I was able to tell him, like, Jeremy, we're going to do one take on this. I'm going to put 2 people in the bathtub, 2 cameramen, and just go. And he just, without blinking, was like, and I think part of it was we knew Jeremy was that kind of actor. There are other actors that'd be like, you're basically saying there's no net, go for it. But because we knew Jeremy loved that, he rose to that challenge. And it's my favorite scene in the entire episode is like him just thrashing this bathroom apart because his dad's betrayed him. And then yet, after a beat, he still cleans up the bathroom. He's still got the leash around his neck, It's it's that trust. I mean, Christian Bale's the funniest because first time I worked with him, he didn't know that I did bits, that I joked around. So it took me like weeks to get to the point where I was like, I'm gonna joke around with Christian Bale. And there was finally this big take at the end of The Big Short where his character walks off set and writes on the board plus 380%. And basically he's been proven right. Everyone said you're wrong. And of course, he did an amazing take. We did 2 takes, we did 3 takes. And I came up to him and I just said, you know, Christian, we got it, but wouldn't it be great on one take if you just turned the camera and kissed your fingers and said, peace out? And there was this long pause, and Christian just looks at me and goes, I don't know if my guy would do that. And I went, I'm screwing around with you, Christian. You could see these lights just went on, and from then on, it was like bits nonstop. But that's what you get out of, like, you know, if you're talking about it, with working with actors over and over again, it becomes unsaid, the rhythm matches up quicker, and it's the best, you know?
Yeah, and it takes a little time sometimes if you don't know the actors. And we had an episode where we were doing like single shots, and it was like the 7th or 8th day of shooting, and it was like a long scene where they've escaped and they come out of the manhole, and it was like, you know, the whole scene was in one shot. And I remember Benicio coming and go, you're going to do coverage, right? I'm like, I don't think we're going to do coverage. And he's like, well, really? Because I think maybe you should do some coverage. And I was like, well, I think the whole episode is going to have these single shots. And we had just started working together, and you know, I could understand as an actor because I remember doing a scene in Royal Tenenbaums with Wes Anderson where he did a single shot, and I was in it at the end of the shot, and it was this emotional moment, and I kept asking him, like, you're going to do coverage, right? And he kept on saying, yeah, we're going to do coverage, and he never did coverage.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Really?
It looks like them. It looks just like them.
It's just my way of saying thank you for reconnecting me with my daughter.
No, I wanted to do that for you.
We did a number of takes, and we did it until he felt like he felt good about it, because I wanted to make sure always that they walk away feeling good. But then you also have to kind of let them know I think we're going to go for this on this thing, because you have to make those choices.
Mm-hmm.
You did coverage, though, right?
Having both Ava and Patty here, obviously you two are both you are directing also big studio movies, and we sort of know how rare that has been for women to get to do. Are your choices influenced by the fact that you are a role model in this space, and you are one of the few that have gotten to do that?
For the most part, I choose things big or small or whatever because I want to, and because I like it, because I'm into it. But definitely I have had moments in my career on my way up, which I've talked about publicly, some of them, where there was like a big movie I was gonna do that I could tell was not headed in a good direction. And I was like, it can't be me. It can't be me. If I do it, it's gonna be a huge deal that a woman did this. If a man does it, it's not going to be a big deal, but if it's me, it's a huge deal. And so I do sometimes feel, I didn't feel it with Wonder Woman because I thought I was the right director, at least to try. I thought I'm a huge Wonder Woman fan and I love the genre. Mm-hmm. So I didn't think about it. I was like, all I can do is do my best. Doesn't matter, woman, man, you know, it's not the point. But I have been thoughtful about it in the past, of like knowing, like, okay, and I think about it when I negotiate my contract and things like that. Like it matters. Mm-hmm. It does matter. Yeah. What do you think?
Do I think about being a role model when I choose things? No. Mm-hmm. It's too hard. Mm-hmm. This is really a tough job. I gotta just like it for myself. I'm tethered to these things for years. Mm-hmm. I also don't have children. These films are my children. These projects are my children. My name is on this. That matters to me. Mm-hmm. This is what lives on when I'm done. And so, I'm not thinking about anybody else but myself when I choose. Can I be interested in this for 2 years? Right. Can I bleed for this, for years and years? So I think, it's helped me not kind of grab director for hire things because it's so much, I get so into it that it's a very intimate process, the choosing. And I trust myself enough to know that, I'm not choosing things that are irresponsible to myself so they wouldn't be irresponsible to the people who might look up to me for whatever reason. I for a long time didn't want to be social justice girl, and found myself after Middle of Nowhere and Selma and then 13th. I get every slavery script, all of them, every history script, every first black firefighter in Delaware. Like, that's a story that deserves to be told. Really? Right. So I get all of that, and it's really, for a long time, I resisted. And with this, after Wrinkle, all I wanted was to tell something true and something that was real. And I went right back to the place that I said I didn't want to go. So with this, I realized, you are a social justice girl, right? And that's social justice woman. And that's okay, and that's okay. And just really get comfortable with saying, you're interested in these things, and whether or not that puts you in a pigeonhole in the industry or you become a role model or whatever, you like this. And so do it for yourself. And so that's what I choose. Yeah.
It starts there.
Yeah.
And choosing your film is choosing your lifestyle.
It really is.
How are you are you going to be happy waking up in the morning, doing this and serving it? And
I'm going to be happy now because I'm going to start at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. That's what I was saying. But see, this is
you're not happy when you wake up at 5.
But this is the thing, truly, I could never say that. I feel like I could never ask for that.
Why?
None of us could, by the way.
I feel like I could never say.
Clint Eastwood and you. Those are the only two people that could do that.
I can never get away with it. No one's going to. First of all, I would be seen as a diva, truly. Seen as a diva. I don't work before 9. I just can't. I think it's your accent.
Definitely the accent.
Not if you make your days.
Because of your accent, man.
Not if you make your days.
Please, let's talk about how you do this, and let's.
By the way, he's from the Bronx. He doesn't.
He's been acting his whole. With social media, you can get sort of instant reviews of your projects. I think once they go out to the world. The Arya Stark sex scene was sort of a big discussion once that episode aired. Are you surprised when a moment like that becomes a social media moment?
It's interesting. I've kind of chosen television because of the quality of the material that I'm offered. Not being a writer, so I've turned a lot of features down. And the one thing you don't get is you don't get the box office. You don't get the reviews all the time. But when I did the Reigns of Castamere episode, The Red Wedding, that was an episode that once I finished it, people had compiled together their reactions to the end of the episode. And it's quite something to see that what I was doing was affecting people in that respect. People jumping up and down their couches and screaming and yelling and crying, and it was really quite powerful and something that I felt like, I guess I did okay. When you get some things like the coffee cup on the table or something, that's just a mistake that she ordered herbal tea, and she got coffee, so I guess there was a mistake there.
What did you feel when you saw that people spotted that coffee cup in that episode? What was that like for you when you saw that become a meme?
Well, I don't know. I think the show is so damn perfect in many respects that people love to find the blemishes. It's just a little, non sequitur that doesn't really mean or matter anything at all.
It's a good sign that people went through frame by frame
Yes,
to find that coffee cup.
Absolutely, yes.
Totally.
How do the rest of you deal with the social media reactions to your projects? Do you check it out? Do you try to ignore that?
I'll check it sometimes, and then I'll turn off for long periods of time. Like, it's been funny on this Wonder Woman, I've just not checked in at all on, but there's nothing I can do. I'm making the movie. But then, when the show came out, I definitely check in and see how people are receiving it as it comes out, but then I stop at certain points. Yeah.
I'd never had the experience of doing a series, except for like a sketch series, like a long time ago, where it was on every week. And so that was really interesting to me to be able to see the engagement with it, which is obviously Game of Thrones, it's like on the highest level, but to see how people interacted with it and that connection that they have, which is really personal. And then it was fun to actually be able to interact with some people on Twitter about the show, especially because it was about something real. And so I delved into that and enjoyed the experience, but I also find I have to be really careful and not get too deep into it.
What is a movie or a TV show that you feel like any aspiring director should see?
I would say The X-Files. Because it was really the first show of its kind that dealt with extreme possibilities out there that people didn't really realize was possible. And setting in a real world tone, which I thought was really well done. And it was just the look of the show and the tone of the show was something that I thought was a real pioneer.
Jean-Marc?
TV show, I would say Soprano, and Mr. Here directed.
I was about to say that.
I would say Soprano.
It's definitive.
That's
It's
so
like
true.
how to create the best character-driven, emotional-driven TV series where you get in and you're sucked into it and you love the characters and you're not supposed to love them. They're ethic. They kill people.
But he loves his family, and he loves his people that care for him.
The first thing that came to mind wasn't a film or TV show, it was Hamilton. Because for me, I think young people or anyone that's watching it should look at, breaking all boundaries and reframing the word possibility. I mean, you're watching this material, it's being played by these people in this way. It broke every rule and it was extremely successful. And for me, it's all the work that I did pre-Hamilton and after Hamilton for me. It really changed my view of creating work, that there are no boundaries. You're not bound by history, you're not bound by gender, you're not bound by skin color, you're bound by nothing as a creator. And so that piece for me is what I would say that anyone that's writing or directing or making any creative work around story should take a look at.
Like the first movie that came to my mind was Dog Day Afternoon for me. It's just one of those films where, I mean, you look at that movie and it's all about character. The tone is defined by the characters. It's not a comedy, it's not a drama. The way that he put it together, the trust that he had to just tell the story, no music. I think it's,
It's one of the great
one of the greats.
Yeah.
You also look at the respect he had. I did this TCM Essentials thing, and it was one of my films that I chose, one of the 20 films that I chose. When you look at back what Lumet was doing with the trans character at the time, I mean, the respect that he showed, he did not, he treated that relationship with full love and with a very serious eye at a time when no one was, really grappling with those things. He's genius. Read the book, Making Movies, so good.
Patty.
The one that just came to mind was I asked my grandmother, and she had answered The Best Years of Our Lives. I was like, oh, great, Grandma, cool. And when I watched that movie, and it's because I just told somebody, I was like, you have to see it. It was one of the first times, I think, that something like war was looked at in such an incredibly interesting way. It actually rocked my world, because I was like, they're using real people with injuries from war, and they're actually stopping and making you look at it in this incredibly fresh and interesting way. I mean, there's so many, it's hard to choose, but that's one that I'm like, you have to see it.
I would say Election, for me, is a movie that, what I like about Election is it deals with very heavy themes in a very light way. And I think its narrative structure is so interesting, how it uses practical narration to tell this elaborate story that's really about America. And it kind of looks like a teen comedy if you're not paying attention. But that movie's it's intimidating how well done that movie is.
What advice would you have given your younger self on your very first day on set?
Don't smoke. Honest to God, that would be it.
I don't know, relax. I mean, I was so petrified. It was an independent film for $50,000. It was like people talking in rooms. You don't need a shot list. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like everything was shot listed. I don't shot list now either. Everything is shot listed. Everything is storyboarded. I mean, I was so terrified of just shooting this that I just overdid it, overcovered. It's two people talking, Ava. Just calm down. I'm kidding. Hands. I'm kidding. Just making sure. And so it's just to really relax and kind of feel the story. Just be in the story and be a part of what's happening in the room and feel that story. The camera is your performance, right? So just making sure that you are in it with the actors in a way that's not so planned, down to the moment, unless you're doing a big beach battle scene for 3 weeks.
I think that's such an important thing what you just said. Like, I feel like that's something I just recently started to really become aware of just being there with the actors. Because a lot of times I've directed and acted, and in this one I had so much more of an appreciation of what the actors were doing, and I realized my role was just to be there and to somehow get into it somehow with them so that I could tell it in the right way, but just be in there with them and feel it, and that would somehow help the the vibe of the whole thing. Yeah.
I think having faith in oneself. is important. That you have to believe in yourself. That you're there for a reason. You got the opportunity, so now go do it. You know, because we beat ourselves up too much.
That reminds me, what I was going to say, I wish I could say to myself is, I was always passionate about making the films I wanted to make, and nothing, you know, got in the way of like that. I knew that I wanted to do it, but I wish I could say to myself, this is going to be so much more fun than you think, you know, because now I love it. Like I genuinely, like the joy that you get in those moments where something magic happens, and like, I think I didn't even think that was going to happen. In the beginning, I was like, I want to do it, and it's a duty, and it's fine. And now sometimes I'm just so, I'm like, I can't believe I get to do this right now with these people, and like, wow, how fun, you know, to see that life. Not always fun, but sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Jean-Marc?
Similar, relax, don't overdo it. Don't overdo it with the camera, with the shots, with the writing, with the locations. Because that first film, I was more of a mover than a director. So many locations. It was so annoying. Every day we had 3 locations. We were in a truck moving, and I had like 2 hours to make like 16 shots, and I had to move there, you know. It was hell. And yeah, relax with your everything, the writing, yeah. I guess it takes time, and we're so ambitious at the beginning. We want to do this. We love the job. What a great job. Telling stories with this art form, with this medium, huh?
Yeah, if you love doing it, and so you're so excited to be there doing it, which is great, and that's what gets you there. That's how you get there.
Sure.
But I think, yeah, for me, like thinking back of like, I'd probably tell myself, you know so much less than you think you know. And that just comes with, I think, you know, age.
Yeah.
You know.
Adam, you sticking with don't smoke? You want to add anything?
I was going to ask you if you smoked. You're the one guy. You could probably start at 9 a.m. with cigarettes. Well, I think actually don't smoke mirrors what they're saying about relax and enjoy it. I think that's kind of what it is like, you know, I love your answer about how fun it is. And that's really what it is. When you're smoking, you're kind of choking down stress. And I actually got to do my first feature with Ben. I mean, and by the time you came on the set, we were having a great time. Right. We were laughing every day. You were there on the craziest day of the entire movie.
Yes.
I think we did like 80 setups with like 3 different units going, but we still were having like a lot of fun. But the first couple weeks, like what Ava was saying, like exactly, it's just like you're overthinking it, and once you let that flow happen, it's the best. So that equals don't smoke.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
But did you have that, just that, and when you went in the first time, and thinking, I just want to have fun, I want to make sure this is fun for everybody?
Halfway through, I realized it was so, I mean, keep in mind, we were doing Anchorman.
Yeah.
So it was like halfway through, you just couldn't help it. We were laughing so much, and the group was so cool. And it was so ludicrous. It was the opposite of professional. I mean, the movie was designed to be ridiculous. So
But that was intentionally, you wanted to kind of go in there and break some rules.
It was like almost a joke on making movies in a way. So that's why we were able to relax by the end that much. But yeah, that was a blast.
So it was fun.
You seem to have fun with the latest one, too.
Yeah. No, we definitely, if you're going to do the darkest tale there is, you better have a little fun in the middle of it. Like, who was it, Niels Bohr said, some subjects are so serious they have to be told comedically. And I think that was kind of Dick Cheney, so we definitely goofed around with that a little bit. But yeah, I think everything, you know, it's playfulness. There's a play to this whole form that I think is exciting. And do you smoke?
I used to.
I knew it.
Well, I was 15 to 25. I'm 56, so it's been a long time.
Oh, you're in good shape then.
But I was smoking like crazy at that age.
I used to smoke 2 packs a day while shooting.
Are you serious?
Constantly. I'd go between menthol and regular if my throat hurt.
Come on.
Monster, we smoked.
Whoa.
A lot.
No fog machine. The director is a fog machine.
It was appropriate to the subject matter. Charlize and I were both just...
What was the brand? What were you smoking?
Marlboros.
Oh, damn.
It was hardcore.
That is hardcore.
And then I quit.
Adam, I wanted to ask you a question. I had to ask this question. From your comedic starting point to your first, I wouldn't say serious film, but your first film, that was such a wonder as a director to get a chance to see the different side of you. It was wonderful. It was just such a dream to like see, what else was in there. Was it wonderful to let that out?
Yeah, it was. I think, it was a case where that was just a story that, like everything we're talking about, you just get taken over by the story. And that's what's fun about this. It's what is that story that's going to make you almost skip to set every day, where you're like, I know I should be here. There's no worse feeling than like someone else could be doing this. But I've always been a fan of just films in general. I don't think of things in terms of genre.
Of course.
I love dramas, I love comedy, we all do. So I got very lucky with that story, there's no question.
Yeah, more than luck, I'm sure, but it was such a treat.
Well,
such
guys,
a treat.
I feel like you all could grill each other for another hour, but I just want to thank you all for coming and having this discussion today. It was really wonderful.
Hi, I'm Ben Stiller.
I'm Ava DuVernay. I'm Patty Jenkins.
I'm Adam McKay.
Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching The Hollywood Reporter.
The Hollywood Reporter. The Hollywood Reporter Roundtables.
Roundtable on YouTube.
On YouTube.
On YouTube.